All right, let's talk about when you know or signs that you need to leave your relationship. And I want you to know that this isn't going to be like some other videos where I'm talking about, surface level things, um, such as, oh, this person is doing this or doing that. I mean, all of those are perfectly valid reasons. I mean, if somebody's cheating on you or if you're in some type of an abusive relationship, by all means do what's best for you. But this really talks about more so from an esoteric perspective. When you know in the creation of your ideal reality or the manifestation of your fullest expression, um, it's time to walk away from a relationship. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying it may not be the best thing for you to walk away from your relationship. You may be a guide for that person. So don't take this video as a sign that you should or shouldn't do anything. I'm not telling you to. I'm just expressing some signs that could mean, hey, walking away from this particular relationship may be the best thing for your growth. Now, my perspective comes from the things that I um, learned and the things that I've experienced. So I've been through divorce, been through breakups for one, but more so things from teachers like Neville Goddard, Joseph Murray, who looked at the Bible not as a book of historical events or a set doctrine, but as a collection of states of consciousness or frequency that man or woman passes through um, as part of the life process. So I take my perspective from that as well as the information that I learned from a Russian physics book called Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland. And that's a book that I highly, highly, highly suggest that you read or listen to. It's available on Audible. You can listen to it. I'll do series. I'll go through chapter by chapter, breaking down and talk a lot about the concepts because the concepts in it are so comprehensive about how you create your reality. And if you read Transurfing, an interesting concept that he talks about very early on in the book is the concept of a pendulum. And the pendulum is an energetic thought structure that is created when essentially two or more people are radiating at the same vibration or radiating the same thought and having emotion towards that thought. So when you get married, your marriage becomes a pendulum, and that pendulum, by nature, at a certain point, will collect energy from its adherents and take on almost like a consciousness of its own, to the point where the adherents are pulled away from a life track that would have otherwise been good for their soul. So I'm speaking to you as an individual soul here, not as a member of whatever relationship that you're in. And I understand if you understand pendulums and you understand the fact that they can become conscious, and you understand that it's so easy to get wrapped up in under a pendulum's influence. So many things are pendulums, and I'm not saying this to scare you about pendulums or scare you about your marriage or whatever the case may be, simply to raise your awareness, because if you're trying to create your reality, these pendulums act as hooks in you, and they're taking energy from you whether you know it or not. That's what's happening. So your job could be a pendulum that you're attached to that's draining you. If you're getting less energy from your job, so they may be paying you a livable wage, the return that you get for the energy that you give to your job may be worth it, but for a lot of us it's not, because that's not our souls, that's not where our soul is fulfilled. Or for a marriage, it could be the same thing. You could be getting drained more than you're getting anything out of it. And in some cases, your relationship is the thing that's keeping you afloat. You may be watching this video as the other side of it, thinking that you're holding back your partner. And I want to tell you, if that's the case, I'm not necessarily telling you to leave a relationship. This would be your sign to, if this person aligns with where it is that you're trying to go, this is your sign to start that work. Because if you feel like you're that person holding that other person back, that it's because there's something that other person is doing spiritually that you two just don't resonate with each other. You get what I'm saying? There's a dissonance in the harmony that you are supposed to be able to resonate at. But that's just a common occurrence when we souls are growing and evolving and traversing through different mental states. You may have been in a certain state of consciousness when you met a certain person, and now due to a certain experience that you need or a certain lesson that you're learning at this moment, you no longer resonate. So as a result, it would behoove you, because your lack of resonance could be causing other disharmonies in your life, affecting your thought daily, causing you to create more of the things that you don't want, and really putting you in a box and feeling like your life is chaos all around you. We have resources available for people like this, but what I've seen a lot of times is that those resources may not necessarily have an understanding of this universe and the underlying things at play. And in an infinite universe where our resources are infinite, where anything is possible to you, if you have that urge to go, it's best that you do, because the pain of not acting can sometimes be worse than the pain that comes from you growing and you learning. Now, whether or not you walk away from any relationship that you're in, a friendship, a marriage, a working situation, it's a decision that you need to be resolute in. Because I'm telling you, as someone who has, as a result of learning this information, released everything that I considered to be an anchor. And I did it for good reasons, or what I deemed to be necessary reasons, and did nothing without a cause. But just because that's the route that I took, and because things worked out for me, doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't hard. When it comes to creating your reality, really creating your reality, really changing your mindset about something, coming to a point where you're saying, okay, this is who I am now. I'm walking in this direction and I'm not going to turn back. I don't care what I see around me. I am this person, and until the world reflects. And even then, because at that point it's just normal. This is who I am. When you start to walk in that and basically claiming your power, your divinity over this reality, it's like energetically other people can feel it. And in your personal relationships, it can be the most gut-wrenching thing to have mustered up enough courage to walk in your I am, only to have your partner relegate the growth and progress or equate it to nothing. And I've been there. And I mean, it could be ignorance on their part, whatever the case may be. But fact of the matter is, when you're trying to create your reality, sometimes the best thing to do is to create a bubble around yourself first. When you're ready to really do this thing, because you got to understand, this is no joke. This is not joking information. The fact that your thoughts create reality, and the fact that you can actually choose a life track that works for you. I'm not BSing you when I tell you this. I'm telling you this because I've executed it and it's worked for me. And I've made mistakes along the way. I've stumbled into alleys that I had to use the same power that got me in there, I had to use that power to get out of it. I've had to cancel out manifestations before they were begun because they were harmful and they were going to come back to me. There were things that when I say this isn't, people want it to be sunshine and rainbows, and as soon as it isn't, you start to give up on your creation and fall into a destructive mental state of disbelief, of lack, whenever you see something not working. And it could be as simple as you needing to take an action, like removing yourself from a baseline of frequency around you that keeps you tied to this state that you're in. But I'm keeping it real with you, and when you come to my channel, I'm going to make you think about your life and think about everything that is in your life. Not because I want you to tear up your life, no, but because I want you to know that if there is something in your life that doesn't reflect who you really are at your core, you can change it. You do have that choice. It doesn't mean go around and just breaking hearts willy-nilly. No. Doesn't mean doing things to hurt people. The direction that you're taking needs to be in the best service of all, for the good of all. I mean, unless your service to self, then at least you need to take care of yourself. So I know there's a lot of service to self people out there, and I'm not going to judge you for being service to self, but I will tell you this: you can only be service to self for so long. You can only focus on yourself. And when I say service to self, what it equates to is that 95% of the time, the actions that you take are about you and about making yourself better and about loving yourself at the expense or to the detriment of others. And to consider yourself service to others is just 51% of the time. 51% of the time, the actions, the thoughts that you have are about uplifting others. Now, if you're trying to be service to others, but you don't even think that 51% of the time you're hitting the mark, here's a simple tool that you can use to help you increase your service to others. And it's so simple. It's so simple. When someone in casual conversation tells you what their dream is, you imagine for them having it. You imagine that they have it. You imagine seeing them have it, them talking to you about having it. You imagine the joy, the elation that they feel having it. Or you can imagine that you are them and you as them have that thing that they want. You can do that for them. And that's worth more than any money in this world. Can you believe in your imagination for someone else? Can you lend your thought power to a different aspect or a different incarnation of God? Without judgment. Understanding if what they want is for the good of all people. Now, understand that there are some people whose wants or desires have underlying assumptions that maybe not be for the good. Like, if your friend owns a cancer, a facility that works on cancer patients, and all they want is business, well, the underlying assumption is that more people are getting cancer if they're getting business. So you may not want to imagine for them, because at that point you're doing something that's to the detriment of others, and your world will bear that fruit. So that's not, you have to pay attention to what it is that you're imagining. But the things that are of good report, the things that are lovely, those things that bring joy to people, happiness, health, well, prosperity, you stay along those lines. Anything that you would want for yourself, you hear somebody wants it, you imagine it. Even if you don't want it for yourself, but it's for the good, you go ahead and you imagine it. That right there, that's huge. It's so huge. Dropping your envy, dropping your hate for people, start there. Start just imagining for people. Seeing somebody on the street and they're homeless and you imagine for them. You can help them out, sure, if you have that ability. Give them some money. I love helping out homeless people. But even more so, I love trying to imagine for them. Because some of them are so far down, they can't do it for themselves, or they think they can't do it for themselves. So here comes you. Now, I'm going to tell you this. getting back to your relationship, and when you know whether or not the state that you're trying to occupy requires you to leave your relationship. I'm going to tell you this: having a partner is a cheat code. Understanding that when two or more are gathered, you can create a thought structure that can resonate independent or have a somewhat of a consciousness separate from you. You can direct what thought energy goes into this thought structure, this pendulum. And if you get your shit together and your partner's got their shit together, and now you're in cohesion and you're working together, and your engine, your entity that you created, this pendulum that you're both attached to include your kids who are going to resonate at that frequency as well. So if success is that frequency that you or the state that you occupy as a result of being in that pendulum, you're successful just by default. Your partner's successful just by default. And now your kids are growing up resonating at that level of success. Everything around them is success, right? And as a result, your family is just, it's expected. If they come from this family, whoever it is that you are, these people, they are successful. The way that we've talked about the famous families like the Rockefellers, or today things like the Carters, things like people like the Clinton, like the Trumps, Versace's, like these families that just radiate success, right? It doesn't matter what they did or anything like that. Fact of the matter is, they're a part of an entity. Their last name is an entity. It is. But the fruit of the state that they occupy is success. The question is it worth it? But you can create your own. There is no barrier that says that you can't occupy a state that works with your partner, if your partner is willing to work with you. And if you have kids, I would highly suggest that you do it, because it's tough to not do it. But should you find you're in a position where you feel walking away is the best for you, I don't judge you. I would highly suggest you use tact in making your next moves. You be very meticulous about how you go about what it is that you're going to do, and ensure that love is at the heart of what you do. Just because you're not with someone anymore as a result of occupying a different state that doesn't resonate with them, that don't mean that you don't have to show them love. That don't mean that you can't show them love. It doesn't matter what happened in the relationship. That was just a state. It was just a state that they were in. And they, like you, are a soul traversing this earth trying to find their fullest expression. And if that isn't with you, that's okay. You can still show them love. And that's how we can change this whole stigma that's attached to people waking up and just coming at each other. It don't got to be like that. You can love somebody and not be with them. This universe is infinite. Sometimes we're going to change partners as we ascend. And just because you change, don't think of yourself as in a higher state of consciousness or them in a lower state of consciousness. That's not what this is about. You're just in a different state of consciousness. You're not above them. They're not below you. But they're not above you. You're not below them. I hope something in this message resonated with you. I'm seeing this video going to whoever needs it, them getting it at the right time, and being able to make a wise decision about your future, and make a wise decision about the states that you choose to occupy. I love you. I hope to see that fullest expression of you. This is a spark.